Julie Bavasso, who was a wonderful actress, director, teacher, painter, visionary, extraordinary woman of the theater, was in Moonstruck with me, and we were all in this kitchen for a week, and there were a lot of fighting going on, and she kept wanting me to get involved in the discussion with Cher and Nicolas Cage about their acting, because they weren't doing what Norman Jewison wanted them to do, which was to be a little more bravura. They didn't trust it, they didn't want to do it, they felt they were over the top, etc. And she kept approaching me and she kept saying, "You've got to get involved, you've got to speak up. We have to speak up." And I kept saying, "Julie, no one ever thanks you when you talk about their acting. I learned that. I know to keep my mouth shut about acting. I don't talk about acting." She said, "You've got to do it. If you don't do it, if we don't do it, we have to do it," blah, blah, blah. She was a real warrior. For any of you who knew Julie, she was a real warrior. So the climax comes, and they're screaming and yelling at each other, and Julie starts yelling at Nicolas Cage, "Just do what the fuck he wants you to do." And he said, "No, I have to do what I want to do." And she said, "Come on, we're all actors here, go ahead." And he gets angry, and he throws his coffee on the table, and it goes all over me. And she turns to me and she says, "See, God punished you because you didn't open your mouth." So, okay, so God won't punish me. I came the other day to talk about acting. One of the difficult things for me is that I become contentious. I've spent my whole life trying to be conciliatory, and I always end up contentious. Last night, Mike calls me up, and he says to me, I had a discussion, and this person said to me, professional experienced actors need to go back. What they need is the basics. And so I almost bit his head off on the telephone. I said, "No, wrong." I said, "Why don't you ask actors what they need? Ask to hear from them." So that's probably what I feel I'm here to speak about. The first thing actors need is to become fiercely independent. That's the first thing. And in schools, to be told not that they are the tool of the director, but that they have potentially within them the capacity to be colleagues. That's number one. They need places where they can find continuity. I was very fortunate. I did have places of continuity. I had Joe Papp, basically, who kind of could get involved with my work and would want to see me come back and try different things. I had Nico Sakharopoulos at the Williamstown Summer Theater, who was interested in my talent and wanted to see me do different things. It's a wonderful thing to have people around you who share the continuity of your work, because the person who really cares about the continuity of your work is you. That's it. And as soon as we get over the bitterness and disappointment and betrayal on that, and then get ahead and get on with the business of our lives, the better for all of us. And there is a period of where you feel betrayed, where you feel this, where you feel that, but that is the enemy. That's the enemy. You've got to get over that. For me, the journey of acting became, it's like Chekhov said, what we do is we work and we love. And our life is not about working in order to make our lives better or worse. My life was about working. It was the way, I think finally, the way in which I realized I was going to evolve was through my work and through my loving. Both were very difficult for me and continue to be difficult. There's no easy way out of it. Maybe I make it that way, I don't care anymore, but that's what it is. Initially, when I first started to work, and this is the idea that I want to present here, is that if we can begin to see our work as an evolving process, as the way we have chosen to evolve as human beings, then we can deal with all the different phases and stages of it. When I first started to act, I was very competitive. I wanted to be better than everybody else. This was born of my whole background. And being first generation Greek, I had a lot of experiences growing up, not the least of which was my father saying, shut the windows, you want them all to know we're Greeks. So somehow being Greek was like not a good thing out in the world of Americans, you know what I mean? And I was very fortunate that I met up with a wonderful teacher, Peter Cass. And he was himself a living example of someone who had the courage to be who he was. And of course he taught that, and he taught other things. He taught skills, etc. All right, so I used all this to try and prove that I was as good as, if not better than, the Americans, whoever they were. They were everybody else who wasn't Greek. So then the day came, I was at the public and then played by Bach the Public, a memorandum, and had my hand on a doorknob, and I just thought, I could go on, I could not go on. And it was quite a revelation. Something had to evolve, something had to change, because the reasons I think people start to be actors are not the reasons they continue to be actors, and those reasons have to be found again and again and again. And what I had done was, of course, lost the sense of play with the other actors. And initially I had that. I was a founding member of the Actors Company, which was a group that had come out of Boston University. And we started several theaters, summer theaters, winter theaters. All right, so this thing about playing with other actors became important, and I put my mind to it. Coincidentally, at the time, Paul Sands called up and said, how would you like to come down and do Second City Star? So I went down there, and I realized instantly that this was a place, this was all about play. Now, you want to know some cutthroat, competitive people. You try to get on the stage with Barbara Harris. I don't know how many people remember her. However, for me, what it did was it brought that whole issue right to the front, and it forced me to choose whether or not I was going to compete or whether or not I was going to play. So that was really good. The next thing that happened to me was I'm in rehearsal with my brother and my husband doing Long Day's Journey, and my husband's in the first scene, and I couldn't even see his eyes, and I kept saying, Louis, I can't see your eyes, they're like slits, and he would like not provoke, and we would just go on. Finally I stopped and I said to my brother, Apollo, that's his name, Apollo, I can't see his eyes, how am I going to play the damn scene? I can't see his eyes. And he said to me, well, I said, I don't understand why I can't, he won't open his eyes. He said, well, I don't understand that any more than I understand why you have to control and manipulate everything on the stage. Big time, right? Big time. And of course, only somebody who loves you will dare to talk to you that way. And so we had a screaming fight, and et cetera, et cetera. And he said to me, you spoon out your vulnerability. If the other actor isn't doing what you think is right, if you don't think that they have thought it out and it's not appropriate and right, and if it's not honest and full and blah, blah, he says, you look like you're playing with the other actor. He said, but you're not really playing with them. You haven't really accepted them. And he was right. That was really frightening, because I had to really then say I was going to entrust my work and myself to everybody who else was on stage. And some people I wouldn't even have a cup of coffee with, and here I was not going to do this. All right, that was the next thing. There's one other thing. The other one had to do with the audience. Now, when I first started off acting, they were the enemy, really the enemy. And I would look, finally I looked at them one day and I thought, well, look, they look like they're trying to have a good time. I remember this happened in a couple of theaters. I looked and I thought, why are they? And so that began to change. It began to change slowly. And that happened as a result of being involved with the theater and wanting to be part of the community, wanting my life to be, and my work to be part of the community. Because in New York, you have a community of actors, directors. It's a theater community. You don't have this wonderful thing called your audience. There are theaters that are beginning to get that. When you get that, and you usually get it in not-for-profit theater, not a profit-making theater, it's really a wonderful feeling to know that people really care about the continuity of your work, that they come to see what you're going to do next, or to complain to you about this and that and the other thing. So for me, the dialogue with the audience became the next thing, and finally, I did a play out there called Happy Days. And every night I went out and talked to the audience, and they were great. They yelled at me, "Why are you doing this play? Every year you do a play like this, blah, blah." And it was great to talk about it, because the play's such a metaphor. And we today are so interested in action and linear things that to do something like Happy Days was an extraordinary choice, and really ask them to trust themselves. Because really the play made them feel stupid. And I wanted to talk to them so that they would understand that they weren't stupid. Because I wanted to continue to do plays like this. Okay, so basically what I'm charting here is myself. There's a saying in theater, every acting problem is a personal problem. We say that. The charting of what happens to an actor is very much connected to what is going on in their lives. Especially if you're talking about somebody who's beginning to question who has been working, you know, who has had certain kinds of struggles. This opportunity to have this dialogue with these actors, because they'll be at different places, it all has to do with why you continue to act. It's all about that. That's the question that has to be asked all the time. Why do I want to do this? Why do I want to do this play? Sometimes that's movie or TV, that's very easy to answer. I need the money. So then what you do is you marshal whatever skills you can to do that job as best as you can. But then if you're looking for the opportunity to do something else, then there's no way out of it. That discussion needs to happen. Now that's not a discussion that actors open up easily. There has to be a lot of trust to open that up. There has to be a sense that you're not going to be judged. The judgment is not the issue here. There has to be the opportunity to let go of some of that bile, because we all have that. One of the things that the actors, I think experienced actors find hard to do is to come to terms with the position that they have in the business. In spite of which, I think that the most important thing is to be fiercely independent. Because the last thing anybody wants you to be is that. But you know that if you're not that, you're going to drown. You've got to somehow hold on to that. Most people are not interested in dialogue with actors in rehearsal. Most directors want you to, and they have the vision, and you're plugged in. Schools teach that. How do we make the actors so facile that they can accommodate the needs of the director? This is a second-class citizen. You know? This is a really difficult issue for actors, because you have to hold on to who you are and at the same time figure out how to work with people who are not trying to figure out how to work with you, but how to use you. How an actor figures out how to do this without constantly swallowing and holding on to that bile, which eventually affects and influences their work and the way in which they talk and the willingness they have to take chances, is a big, big thing for the working person who's been working a while. It's a serious consideration. The joy of acting is about transformation. As we work, the fact that we are constantly in situations where transformation is asked of us is a great joy. Whether it is on a larger scale, such as our lives are constantly transforming and the reasons why we act are transforming, or whether it's on the scale of bodies transforming, voices transforming. There's such a great joy and energy and life that kind of springs out of us when that happens. Last night I went to see Skylight, and that guy Michael Gambon was like a living example of that. It was incredible. the life and the energy that was on that stage. And I was thinking in terms of coming here today, and I was thinking about what Michael Gambone's life has been like, and the opportunities that he has had to work, and the struggle he has had. Because he's not a man comfortable. You look at him and you can see this guy is not at peace. He's not at peace. And there's a tremendous restlessness in him and a kind of a danger in him and a lot of other things that I suspect were not easy for him, an Irishman dealing with the English theater. But what you do get when he walks on stage is, this is my place. You know, this is where I live. And that's why I started off with this thing about feeling fiercely independent, because that's very important to me too. I think without that, all of these discussions, if we don't address that, and if we don't address the fact that how prevalent that is in this country, is the same now as it was when I started. Which is the reason that I went and started companies. I was involved in starting 3 of them because I wanted someplace not to be that. I wanted someplace to have the opportunity to evolve. For me, this whole effort here is to be commended. If the focus will remain on the actor. I don't think you say, well, why shouldn't it? It changes. We then start talking about the actor as, now how do you make a living? We then start, we start talking about all sorts of things that don't have to do with the heart of the matter, which is our work. There's a wonderful poem by Lorca. It goes, the poem, the song, the picture is water drawn from the well of the people, should be given back to them in a cup of beauty, so that in drinking, they can know themselves. And that's what it's all about. Thanks a lot.